5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We've had a few weeks off. I'm glad to be back. Part of the reason I haven't been around is we've been very, very busy. I had a daughter graduate from Penn State Law, so we spent some time down there for the graduation ceremony. Remodeling the house, I think most of you already know about that, and that's taken a little bit more time than we thought. So I'm actually back into the original area, my original studio area, just on a different angle as we move furniture and relocate things as we try to get the house done. We got a great night for you tonight. We've got a ton of information. We're going to be talking about the USHL draft. We're going to break down the first 3 rounds, and we're going to kind of give you a sense, and we're going to juxtapose that to the 2019 draft. We're not going to really use last year, and the reason we're not going to use last year as much is because of the pandemic. It really threw everything topsy-turvy. But we're going to look at what the cause and effects of the draft were since then. So that'll be a little bit of fun. We'll have some fun with that. We're going to also announce our winners of our contest for new members. We've got 4 winners to announce tonight. We'll do that a little bit later in the broadcast. So that's coming up. We're also going to look at the OHL draft and a certain piece of the OHL draft, the 14th round. Usually you don't look at 14th-round draft picks, but it'll be interesting. We'll get around to that. We're going to look at the USPHL, and we're going to look at what they're advertising and what the reality is. The USHL is making USPHL, NCDC. They're making some pretty bold claims. They're putting it out there that we'll cover it. We'll get to that and a lot more. Hang on, and let's get the show rolling. I don't know what I want to do first. I don't know. Let's think about this a little bit. What order do we want to go into? I think we're going to go into. Let's get the news stuff done first. I just love running that little piece. That makes me feel good when that happens. Okay, so what's going on in the news? It's pretty simple. We're going to start with we're going to run down the list of things. I just got to pull them up here so I've got them. Nope. Got to be on the right screen. If you're not on the right screen, there we go. Now that we're on the right screen, I should be able to pop it up real quick. First story. I've got to move out of the way. First story is dealing with the female player in the OHL. So some of you aren't as old as I am and remember the Manon Renaud story. Manon Renaud was a player. I want to say this was going back in the early 90s, and she was actually able to play in an NHL exhibition game. And Manon Renaud was actually a really good goalie. Let me see if I can adjust this, folks. It's driving me nuts. I went the wrong way. All right, there we go. So Manon Renaud is a really good goalie, world-class goalie. The bottom line, though, is that she was small for the time, and she was in a situation where even if you meet her now, she's not 5'10", 5'11". So we've got a female selected. I believe the Sarnia Sting took her. I know it was Sarnia. That is true. It's 14th round pick. And I've got to believe this is a really good hockey player. I got to believe this is, she's really good at what she does. 5'7", less than 140 pounds. If you're just looking at this statistically, why would Sarnia do this? It's the day and age that we're in. It's good for them. They need to get butts in seats. She'll be able to come into camp. First of all, 14th round picks, goaltender. The odds of a 14th round pick making it, there's a lot of hype going on about this, but it really isn't there. It's not in the situation where it's believable. And you're right. Somebody just put up Tampa Bay. Manon Renaud did play in the Tampa Bay system, but I believe the game she played in was actually in Atlanta, Georgia, the night she played. Look that up for me. Tell me if I'm wrong on that. But this is good news. I mean, this is a good hockey player. She's getting some publicity. It's probably going to help her launch herself into that, even to a bigger national scene. I honestly don't see the OHL jumping in at all with a player that's 5'7" and 140 pounds for goalies. Goalies right now, the prototypical goalie is 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". You're getting massive goalies, massive. Just they take up space and they're athletic at the same time. So nothing that I'm seeing here is negative, except for the fact if anybody's actually expecting to see this goalie playing. I highly doubt you'll see this goalie play in a real OHL game, unless Sarnia is so far out of it that they can do it without costing themselves a playoff situation, or they can do it. Maybe something does happen there where she gets an exhibition game or gets an exhibition period. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see her play in an exhibition game and get a period in. But let's just put, let's call it the way it is. It's not going to turn into anything more than that. And so it's fun, and that is part of the stories going on out there. If you haven't heard about it, that's probably the only big news. The OHL had their draft. I'm not an OHL guy as far as following the draft like I do for NCAA-bound players in the junior leagues that provide NCAA players. So I don't really have a real good grasp on the whole draft. I know the top 10, top 20 picks. So interesting on that. We'll get back to that. But let's jump on some of the other stories out there. This one is the one that really interested me this last week. And I had a bunch of people on our discussion group wanting to post the story. And I was tempted to let it post, and I'll show you the story here. The story is, the 9 USPHL players listed in the NHL Central Draft final rankings. So it sounds great. It sounds like a wonderful thing. Wow. And in fact, a lot of people are putting on the post, best tier 2 league out there. Hands down, clean the clocks. The North American Hockey League didn't have anybody in the Central Scouting list or the rankings. So let's back up a little bit on this. Let's put a little bit of information here. So that you see that list of names that's up there, and you can see the list of names that are on there. And I've got the names listed right here. I've got their on my nice little yellow legal pad, because when you're married to a lawyer, you've got lots of legal pads around. Okay, so what I did was let's have a little fun with this. I want to. I don't want to go there yet. Let's go back to here. And what I want to do is I want to go into just look at elite prospects and give you a sense. Okay, here's elite prospects. This is the elite prospects page. You can pull it up, eliteprospects.com. And this is the list of 7 or 8 players they have. This is the first one on the list. And this is Shane Lachance. First of all, let me make it very clear. These are all excellent players. I mean, these are really, really good players. And this is not a slam on the players. And they're honestly playing for some pretty darn good teams inside the NCDC. So this is really not a slam on the individual teams. Players good, teams good. My beef on this is with the marketing on this and with the leadership of the organization, the USPHL, spinning this to the point where it's just an unbelievable statistic. All these players on the watch list. So let's take a look first at Shane. Great player. It says right there he played for the Boston Junior Bruins in the NCDC. Okay, he's an 03, 6'4", big kid. All right, but let's get down here and look at it. Oh, Tabor. What happened to Tabor this year? Tabor didn't play this year, did they? So what happened with all those kids that were elite players that wanted to continue to play? They jumped on. Hey, if the Boston Junior Bruins offered me a chance to play some games when my team wasn't playing, absolutely jump on that. I'd jump on it in a heartbeat. So here's a kid that was going to play for Tabor. You see 0 games there, and he jumped on with the Boston Junior Bruins. So he's headed to Boston University, and not this next season, but the year after. So let's go back down here and look at something else lower on his profile sheet. And we can see here when he actually went to, oh, look at this. He confirmed to Boston University from Tabor. So the hype on this player was before the pandemic. This player confirmed with Tabor while he was a Tabor player, not with a player that's not while he was playing with the USPHL or the NCDC team. So yeah, okay, maybe they were just off on one. Maybe they just made a mistake on Shane and said, you know what, we're going to take credit for him, even though he clearly was a Tabor kid. He clearly had already committed to Boston University. His team wasn't playing, and we were able to pick him up and play him a little bit. All right, so let's go to the next name on the list. The next name on the list is Simon Motu. I don't know Simon. And the reason I don't is this is an interesting one. Clearly a great player. He's an 03. He's 129th on the Central Scouting list. But look at this here. Last year, he played in the OHL. Okay, so he's an OHL player. If you notice where he's from Highland Park. He's from Chicago. Okay, well, OHL had some problems this year with getting games in, didn't they? OHL had some problems with playing a season, and most likely because he was an American, he was having a difficulty getting across the border. Maybe in this situation, the best thing to do is to stay at home, and so he did. So he played for a premier team. Now we all know, hey, look, this is a great player, but playing for the Chicago Cougars is a step or two below. It's a step down from the NCDC. Okay, it's a great program. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with the Cougars. I'm not picking on him. And this is clearly a good hockey player. But did the NCDC and the USPHL actually develop him, or did he stay there and park himself because he couldn't play in the OHL this year? I would argue that maybe that was a little bit of an overstatement to say that he's a player that was developed by the NCDC and he's on the NHL list. So yeah, he's on the NHL watch list from the Central Scouting, and yes, he did play in their league, but clearly there's some circumstances. So maybe they made a mistake on those two. Let's go to the next name. This is Billy Norcross. Once again, great hockey player. Look at the jersey he's wearing. Oh, he's wearing a Cushing jersey. Okay, whoop. Maybe we've got a situation here. 03 player. Let's go down here. Oh, he's committed to Boston College, and he played at Cushing. Oh, so he's a Cushing kid, and he was the captain of the team. Just like the other prep player we were looking at was the captain of the team. So he played 19 games of the NCDC because Cushing didn't play this year. Okay? He's going to Boston College, and if you look down at the bottom of his profile, he committed from Cushing to Boston College. So this kid was already on trajectory. There was no development needed, and he played 19 games. Now, if you look at his career, all those Cushing games, 38 games there, another 33 games there, and another 25 games there. The 19 games he played for the Islanders and the NCDC are supposed to be all of his development time that it took to get him on the NHL list. There's a pattern here. The pattern is the players that were really good and didn't have any place to play, that wanted to continue to play and could make it work, they played in the NCDC. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they play in the NCDC? They were flexible. They allowed them to play the modified schedule. So, okay, maybe those three were off. Let's go to the next one. So this is Evan Orloff. He played for the New Jersey Rockets. 03. He's from Maryland. He's 220 on the list. And let's take a look at his numbers here. So he came up through the Rockets, but St. Albans. So the story is the same here. What did he do? He played with the NCDC this year. Now he's an 03, so he's still in school, and it is what it is. We can do this with the whole list. We go to Logan Morrell. He's the next on the list here. 03, played for the Islanders program. 6'2", big kid. But if you look here, what he did, he played 8 games with them. So he just filled in here and there, and the NCDC is going to take credit for it? Yeah. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It just really leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And once again, Andrew King, we can go through this list all night long with all these players that the NCDC are taking credit for. Good hockey player here, Andrew King. You go down and take a look at him. He played 1 game for the Islanders, Lawrence Prep. So he's a Lawrence Prep kid. And, I saw the comment that all the leagues do this, and they do. To an extent, every league does this. probably not to the extent that this is going on here. You usually don't see in the league that's probably because they're on top of the heap. They don't need to do this as much. The USHL actually tries not to do this, but this was a little bit over amplifying things. And I did find one. I forget which player it was. It's the player that's playing for Utica. Let's see if this is the player. I think it is. No. So this one was one of them that they had. He actually finished the year with the Tri-City Storm, played 22 games, played in the Gojo, the OJ, more games, 29 games, 24 games, played 22 for the Jersey Hitmen, and then moved on to the Tri-City Storm. So actually was with the USHL when this all happened with the list. And it just irritates me because there is a lot of positives with these players. They're great hockey players, but you got to make sure you don't fall for the hype. If a league's saying, hey, we've got all the draft picks, we got all this, but, and this is the part that's interesting. Let me get this screen off. The part that's interesting in all this is, why isn't that league just flooded with players going to the USHL? So the question I'd ask right about the bat is, shouldn't the drafts just be full of NCDC, USPHL kids being drafted to go play in the USHL? And let's go through that. Let's talk a little bit about that. I don't have any graphics because I've been putting this together by hand, so I'm on the free legal pads for my wife. But I want to go through some of the numbers with you. But I'm going to jump around a little bit. I'm going to jump around a little bit on this because I want to talk about the USHL draft in the first 3 rounds first. I just got to find my little sheet on the... Okay, so I've got a video out there. It's pretty popular, and it covers the first 3 rounds of the 2019 draft. And so we talked about the 2019 draft, and we went through those numbers, and the video is 4 or 5 minutes long. It's worth watching to get yourself some context of some of the things you can look for and watch. So right now, if you don't know about the draft, there's two drafts that were held. There's the futures draft, and then there's the entry player draft for players for next season. Now, the players that are being pulled in are 01s, 02s, 03s, and 04s. That's what's coming into the regular draft. So if you look at the 01, 02, 03, and 04s, and here's like I said, we're going to play this off the 2019 draft. So in 2019, only 7 in the first 3 rounds without commitments. In other words, you've got 15, and 15, 45 players, 15 kids each round picked. First 3 rounds out of 45 players, only 7 players were uncommitted in the 2019. In the 2021, that number is 22 players that are uncommitted. Interesting. Don't really know if there's enough really to build off of there, but I think probably the biggest reason is the number of foreign players, which changes that number drastically. In 2019, the USHL was moving away from foreign players, really made a hard right away from the foreign markets. And this is before pandemic. Only 3 players in 2019 were coming in the first 3 rounds. We're only talking about the first 3 rounds. Only 3 players came from overseas, not including Canadians. There are a couple Canadians that were in that first 3 rounds too. In 2021, 14 players out of your first 45 are coming from overseas. Think about that. That's a huge jump up. That's 11 players more out of 45. So, I mean, you do the math on that. That's easily 25% of your players are coming from Europe again. Now, the pendulum had swung all the way away from Europe for a long time. We started seeing this evolution away from Europe as the USA hockey market grew and grew, and Canada's always been strong. But that's really one of the biggest reasons why you're seeing less of the Division I commitments in those first 3 rounds. These players haven't been exposed to it yet, so that will change as things go on. Interesting. There was 13 North American Hockey League players taken in 2019. In the 2021 draft, it's 12. So North American Hockey League continues to hold firm as being the largest producer of players for the USHL, as it should be. The league is twice as big as far as the number of teams. Their job is the Tier 2 feeder to the Tier 1 program. Not just the Tier 2 feeder, but they still develop a ton of talent for NCAA Division 1 and Division 3 teams too. Prep, 6 and 5. 2019, 6 prep players, 5 prep players. Minnesota High School, 3 in 2019, 4 in 2021. Not much difference there. BCHL and CGHL, here's where the real difference in the poll is because the BCHL, because of the pandemic, you saw a drastic number of reduced amount of players that were Americans playing in the CGHL and in the BCHL. You saw teams drop out that were heavily American, the Buffalo Sabres, Junior Sabres out of the OJHL. But they had 12, between the BCHL and the CGHL, they had 12 players in the USHL draft in 2019 in the first 3 rounds. This year, total, 3 players. 3 players. So the move has been completely away from Canada and over to Europe, which is extremely interesting because coaches haven't been able to travel to either place. So these USHL teams must be heavily relying on other sources to help them draft and recruit players in Europe. And there are a couple of the teams. I know a few of the teams have actual European scouts that really work hard. Some of them have some volunteers over there to help. But it's just extremely interesting to see the switch and the movement and where it's going and what it's doing. But what you don't see in the first 3 rounds is the NCDC. You don't see that come into play until a few rounds below that. But and there's a couple of NCDC kids that come into the draft. But once again, where are all the Tier 2 players coming from? In the past, it's always been heavily null, heavy BCHL below that, and then it was the AJHL, and then the CCHL and the OJHL of the CJHL level. All the Tier 2 teams are the junior A teams out of Canada. The BCHL led the pack. AJ was a distant second, and then you'd have the CCHL and the OJHL, and the rest would follow. This pandemic has thrown things for a loop. I'm not sure where we're going with this, but it's interesting. It's extremely interesting to see which direction we're going. What are your thoughts on this? Give me some ideas what you're thinking. I'm going to look and see who's on and who's watching. We've got great numbers tonight on all the different platforms that are going on. Richard, I see some people have already started answering your question and talking about the brick. I'll gladly give you a little opinion about that. Let me throw that up there. That's not your original question, Richard. Let's get back to your original question. Let's say hi to some people too. Richard, longtime watcher of the live stream. A lot of work for his kid. Congratulations on winning your first tournament. Besides that, congratulations to all of our watchers and our members of our group and our page that were drafted in the USHL, that were drafted in the OHL. We had several people that got drafted in the OHL over the last in this last draft that are members of the group and have been chatting with me on the side about the draft process. So congratulations to everybody on that. So Richard, the question is, my name is Richard, and I'm addicted to watching my son play. That's the best line of the night, okay? This is the support group because you're not going to hear anything bad about being a parent that wants to watch your kid play or be involved with your kid. If you're not a fan of Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats, it's a group. One of his songs is Hey Mama. I probably have mentioned it here before. I know I just did I did 2 other podcasts with other hockey people, and I mentioned the song because it says in there, if you're not working hard enough, you haven't worked hard enough, you haven't ran far enough, you haven't gone far enough yet in life to say that it's over, it ain't going to get easier. I'm a firm believer that it starts easy, and the final line of the song, the mom's advice in the song is, when are you going to start treating this like a race? And talking to her son. I do believe that hockey is a race. You snap your fingers and your kids' careers are over. It doesn't seem like that at the time when you're 10, 11, 12 years old. But let's talk about the brick first. Go to the Elite Prospects page. Pull up the World Junior Championship teams. Pull up Canadian, pull up American rosters of the World Junior Championship teams. and look at the two commonalities that most of the players have in those teams. They played in the Brick and they played in the Pee Wee Quebec at the highest level in the Pee Wee Quebec tournament. If you ask, how do you get involved with those things? If they've passed you by, they passed you by. You move on, you get into the best league you can. But if you have an opportunity to play in the Brick, you have an opportunity to play there and go to the Brick, you get an opportunity to skate with a Brick team and practice with a Brick team. First of all, go out and skate with a Brick team, and you'll see what talent is, because these teams are recruited for over a year. They practice just for this tournament in Edmonton, and it absolutely is something that you should try to do if you can do it. Now, hey, if it's not your ball of wax, it's not your ball of wax. Baseball players have their World Junior junior thing down in Pennsylvania. Other sports play young, and if you want to do it, do it. I think it's awesome. And I do know that that there is early selection in this sport. As many people want to say that this is a marathon, that they'll find you. Nope, it's not the way it works. They're not scouring the backwaters for you. Okay, they're going to the popular tournaments. They're looking at the most common denominator spots. Tier 1 Elite, HPHL. Okay, AYHL to an extent, the North American Prospects League to an extent. And then they're looking at junior leagues. They're looking at younger junior players, and that's where they find them. They're looking at showcase players. They're looking at prep players. They're looking at Minnesota high school players. So if you're not in one of those categories and you think you're going to move on to the highest level of hockey, you're going to move into the high-level juniors, and you're going to play in the USHL, you're going to play in the North American Hockey League, and you're going to play Division I, if you're not playing high-level Minnesota high school hockey, if you're not playing a high-level prep, or you're not playing HPHL Tier 1 Elite or equivalent to that, the Beast League has some equivalent teams, some better teams. If you're not playing at that level, it's going to be extremely hard. You're up against the curve. And so statistically, put yourself in the best places, and it starts with the Brick. So I appreciate that, and thanks, Rich. James Weaver's up. Hey, James, I saw your new motorcycle there, and I think you even got a picture of it on there. Good to see you. Claus up from Odessa. So James and his wife are extremely good billets and great people. Good to see you on, James. Say hi to the wife. Steven, you're on. Brick is great tournament. You're absolutely right. Greetings from Knoxville. Back at you, Andy. Good to see you on. Let's see. So much going on, Richard. Yeah. I already said something about you, Richard. I can't keep talking about your comments. So, Maria, good to see you on from Maryland, but stuck in Providence. Worst places to be stuck. My cousin Jeannie from Flint, Michigan. Good to see you on. Perry's on from Nassau. Longtime viewer. Dave is on. Dave, we'll get to you later. Good news for you. Tampa Bay's on. Maria's on. Rob's on from Chicago. Got some fans that like to hear the word OHL, I guess, so that's on there. Greg Kane's on from Amherstburg, Ontario, and if you don't know where that is, just cross the bridge and turn right and drive a little south. You'll find it. Jay's on. She will go to college. She's talking about the player. No way she's going to give up her eligibility. You're absolutely right. It'd be silly to go in there and, obviously we've talked about this before. You have OHL eligibility rules. That's why she could play in a inter-squad exhibition, but she can't play against another team. So there's a good chance she'll play in an inter-squad. She'll get her jersey that says the OH on there. But you're spot on. Nobody's going to give up eligibility just to well, no, I shouldn't say that, because a lot of Canadians look at the U Sport system, and there's some great schools up there. If she's already got her mind made up on a Canadian college, then maybe that's the case. So we've got another Shreveport fan on here. Go Bugs. Good to see. Can't tell who that is, but good to see. 1992 against St. Louis Blues. Was that in the whoever put this comment up here? Was this played in Atlanta? I think that was an exhibition game in Atlanta. So tell me if I'm right or wrong on that one. Maria says she still has time to grow. Yeah, but that most likely, looking at the picture on there, even if she gets the 5'8", 5'9", it's still it's in a game with goalies. You don't see male goalies playing in the OHL or high level hockey at 5'8", 5'9", and there's rarely do you see a 5'10" or 5'11" female goalie. And if you do, she's probably got herself earmarked if she's got some talent to play in the world level anyway, national and world level. So, okay, Let's see. Brandon's here from Amherst. That's good to see. Okay. Okay, Richard, I got to get back to you because you're throwing some good stuff up here. I wonder what the effect will be in 10 years. All the kids that might have started playing when they were around 6 to 8 years old and didn't even start playing, we'll be looking back in 10 years and talking about that. Elaborate a little bit more on that, Richard. I'll throw your comment up again, but are you talking about what the pandemic has done or lost opportunities from not playing in tournaments like the BRIC? So, Dave, I see your comment about the leagues, and all the leagues do that as far as what we were talking about earlier with the drafts or with the central scouting list. Potsdam's on, New Hampshire's on. Jay says new NCAA rules make it harder to commit at 14, 15, and 16. Yes, they do make it, and thank goodness they're doing that because it truly makes it easier to have a little bit of more time before the actual commitments come in. But the major players, your one percenters of the one percenters, they're still being talked to at that age. Even as we speak right now, that's happening. Mark from Bloomington, Minnesota is on. Toronto's on. It does go by so fast. I love that comment. That's a great comment. Okay, see, maybe I'm ahead of you guys. It was an exhibition game in Atlanta, I think. So, hey, Chris is on from Niagara. Great to see you. Okay, the pandemic, I'll get back to that. I got a thought on that, Richard, about the kids at this age. Okay. Invites to college camps, are they worth going to? Okay, so we got a lot to talk about. I'm going to write that one down because I want to get that one on the board. Let's start out with Richard's question first about the pandemic. The effects is already in place. You've got, because you saw the concentration of teams, you saw the North American Hockey League become unbelievably talented this year. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is look at, we were talking to one of the Odessa fans a little bit earlier with the Weavers. Look at Odessa, last place team in the NAL. I think overall last place. Still had 10, 12, 14 NCAA Division I commitments on the team. You just don't see that, in a normal year. But what's happened because of this is there's two things happen. If you didn't have an outstanding year, and the amount of kids that got decommitted because the pandemic allowed players to stay one more year. So now you've got NCAA teams, Division I teams, even Division III teams that can take their senior class and do a redo. Even if they had a full season, even if they got all their games in, they've got a redo. So with a redo, what that does is that pushes those 2000s that were going to come in as freshmen off a year. Not all of them. A lot of them are still going. The majority are still going. But even if it took 10 or 15 or 20% of those open opportunities away, those are 2000s now that we're scrambling to find spots to play. So what do? It becomes the cream of the crop. Your top tiered Division III teams are becoming unbelievably good. This is your Norwiches. This is your Wisconsin Superior, Wisconsin Stevens Points, Adrian, Geneseo, Utica, all these programs that folks, there's other good ones too. I just, threw a list out that I could think of off the top of my head. All these schools are grabbing those NCAA Division I players in a normal year, and they're stockpiling them. And some of them are even stockpiling more than they need at the D3 level because they've got a chance to grab players that they normally couldn't get. Is this going to be a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal? I don't know what this does because remember that junior gets his year over 2 on that NCAA roster, that sophomore and that freshman. They all get a redo. They get one more year of eligibility. So does this play into the 01 class? Does it play into the 02 class? I can't tell you, but the immediacy of what it's doing to hockey is right now. I mean, this is right now. This could have a ripple effect for 3 or 4 years. I really can't tell you where it stops or what how many months or years it takes before we get ourselves back to what we thought was normal before. But it's happening right now. What happens to these kids for 1 year off? I think you got a lot more of an opportunity to recover if you're a 10, 11, 12, or 13-year-old than you do if you're a 19 or 20-year-old right now. And there is a lot of panic on inside of the USHL. I have my nephew is a USHL coach. Yeah, I know. How does a guy like me have a nephew that's that old? Doesn't make any sense. But my nephew coaches a USHL team that still has 4 or 5 players that are uncommitted to Division I programs. Unheard of. Last year, players even with 2 seasons left, because in the USHL a lot of times players won't play out their whole run. They'll leave and go play Division I with still a year or 2 of eligibility left. It's not happening, and these are kids that are now starting to turn and look at Division III schools. Once again, the precedence, what we expected from this is the concentration. We thought we'd see great hockey. We did. We've seen some unbelievable USHL hockey. We've seen some unbelievable. The NCDC got tons better. We talked about it. They picked up players that were NHL level players or NHL visible players. They're on that radar, and they were able to put them on their rosters. That league got better. Even if it was 7 or 8 players that are on the NHL watch list, makes your league better. It makes it a lot better. So when we look at this whole situation, we got great instant hockey because of the contraction. No BCHL, no CGHL hockey for the most part, especially in the areas. We lost a couple teams, in the NCAA, we lost a couple teams in the North American Hockey League. We lost a couple teams in the USHL. All of that contraction made it great hockey. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be great hockey next year or the year after. This is going to, how this plays out is going to be extremely interesting. So, on the back burner, while all this is going on, because the other sports, the footballs and basketballs, are pushing towards players having their own marketing rights, their ability to represent themselves in marketing deals, the thought process of the OHL and the USHL being at polar opposites, or the whole CHL, all 3 of the level leagues, Western League in Canada, the OHL in Canada, and the Quebec League, which are all considered pro hockey right now, we're on the verge of seeing that line disappear, where you're a free agent. You can play wherever you want. Now, hockey players can't reap the rewards that baseball, basketball, and football can reap as far as personal monetary success from this. Not the level that, but they still can get something out of it if this does happen. So things are going to change here. Things are going to change drastically over the next few years. And the pandemic is kind of a launching pad, or that critical event that happened that's kind of sparked some movement and change. It started already with the BCHL. We see the BCHL moving away from the CJHL. What does that league turn into? What does that become now? And the fact that they're not going to be part of the junior A/tier 2 in the American side level. Now, does that allow them to grow where they become more USHL-like? Does it allow them to put a partnership together with the USHL or the North American Hockey League? Are they rogue now a little bit like the NCDC? Do they put an agreement together? I think that'd be the kiss of death, but do they put an agreement together with the NCDC where you got NCDC East and West? I don't know, but man, oh man, there's a ton of stuff going on that you'll see. So, thanks for that. I don't want to spend all night on that. So let's get on to another question. Richard, you're on fire tonight, though. You got all kinds of things going on to talk about. Perry says, invites to college camps. Are they worth going to? Perry, yes. Yes, they're worth going to. You've seen it on our discussion group this week. A lot of people are asking the question, do I go to a USHL camp? My kid got invited to the main camp. Yeah. My kid, one of the questions was, my kid was drafted. It was a future drafts pick. He was a young kid. So what are they, 05s now? Are they the futures? I believe that's right. So he's an 05 getting drafted to a USHL camp. Do you go? Absolutely you go. Where else are you going to go? You've got a USHL team that's interested in you enough to draft you on a futures list. Build that relationship. Now, if you notice a player that gets drafted in a futures draft, I think the odds are less than 50% that you'll end up playing on that team if you're a high-level caliber player. But you get in the door, you learn, you watch, you see what's going on, you get comfortable with the situation, you network, you meet coaches, you get to introduce yourself, you get to listen. There's so many good things that can happen when you go to these camps. College camps are very similar, Perry. Perry, the thing I like about college camps is, you get an actually chance to walk into a campus, see the campus. You get a chance to skate on their ice. You get a chance to interact with their coaches, because most likely the assistant coaches, maybe even sometimes the head coach, will be on the bench and will run the bench. And if you don't know what these are, college teams run showcases now. And this happens, I know in Western New York, there's a few Division I teams. Not all of them do them, but some of them do them. Are they a revenue maker? Yes, they are. They're a camp. So that money, for example, when I was an NCAA Division III coach, we ran camps because we could only have one coach that was, we had a head coach and we had an assistant coach that was full-time paid. We had a second coach that wasn't technically full-time paid. So we ran camps so we could get him money so that he could be full-time. And that's been going on for years with teams where they use it to supplement the income of the lesser paid coach on the staff so that the two assistant coaches have, a little bit more of an equal pay situation. And not always equal, but, more of a livable wage. So these camps are very popular. Do players come out of them? Yes, they do. I'm very familiar with 3, 4, 5 of these camps. Most of them always make sure that they've got legitimate candidates in the camp. Now, the way these camps work is by NCAA rules, the camp has to be open to anybody. So a house player could sign up for the camp, but what they do is they just advertise in a way that house players would normally not see the ad. They'll direct mail people. They'll have it very small on their website. They don't mass market that. They don't put it where it's highlighted, but you'll still get, every team in these showcases, you'll get lower level talent that's there. But, I've experienced it as a junior coach. I've experienced it as a parent. I've experienced it as an owner going to watch these and watch what level players they have. You can get a lot out of those, and they do work. The only thing I say is this, and I keep repeating this over and over and over. Folks, make sure you do your homework. Make sure you do your homework. I love elite prospects. Now, what do I mean by do your homework? Just because a college is interested in you, just because they invite you to something, just because they put an offer on the table to you, does not mean you'll ever play there. Why do I say that? Why would I put that in your head that if you get a commitment in hand, a verbal commitment to a school before you sign your letter of intent, that commitment that you see in hockey, when you go over to College Hockey Inc. and you see that list of teams and all the different teams that have committed to players for the last year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever they have. In fact, I just went through the whole list today. I went through every single school on how many kids they actually committed to for this upcoming season. There's some teams out there that have 16 plus, somewhere between 15 and 20 kids committed for next season. Let that sink in. Do you really believe all those kids will actually step on the campus? Do you really believe all those kids will actually ever wear a jersey and skate for that team? And the answer is absolutely not. Teams will overcommit, and this year especially, there's an overcommitment because once again, they're able to retain more players, so there's less spots opening up, and they went out and grabbed as many as they could. There's some teams out there that just don't have the same ethical basis that you have, and you can't trust anybody in this situation right now. You have to continue to do your homework. You have to continue to make sure you're building good communications and make sure you're dealing with people that you really believe are trustworthy. How do you do that? You pull up elite prospects. You pull it up now and you print off the list of the teams you want to look at. If you go to elite prospects and you pull up a roster for any college team, so right now we're in the 2021 year, go up to the top and click 21-22 and you'll see a list of all the kids that are committed for that next year. And see how many actually show up. Or go back 2 years, go back 3 years, and look at these lists. You'll find out that not every school is ethical as you would expect them to be, and it's not fair to kids, but it's the way this game is played, and it's just not something that is talked about. No other NCAA Division I coach is going to rat out another NCAA Division I coach for doing that, and no junior coach is ever going to say anything because they don't want to dry the well up for the players that guy's committed to, even though that head coach at school, University of XYZ State, that coach recruits 5 goalies a year and takes one every other year. So what happens to those other 4 goalies? They're scrambling when he calls them up in the spring and says, you know what, we're going to go another direction. Or what happens a lot of times, and what really bothered me this year is schools just don't return calls to the kids they verbally committed to. So the kid starts calling them in September and October, texting, emailing, Facebooking, and these coaches aren't getting back to them. They ghost them, completely ghost them, and they get away with it. Just be careful. That's all I got to say right now. Just be careful. It's crazy the way things are going on right now. So anyway, let's see what's out there. Okay, got to throw this up there. Go Magicians. Hey, look, it's a phenomenal year right now for the North American Hockey League, and the Magicians, like a lot of teams, are still out. There's 8 teams left. Interesting. They're in the round now of there's 4 divisions in the North American Hockey League, and they're down to the playing for the division championship in the playoffs. So there were 4 teams, now they're down to 2. All of the top seeds won their first 2 games, so it's 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, and 2-0 in all the divisions, and they're all the home teams. So interesting to see now that all the teams go on the road now for this next weekend. It's best of 5 in this round. It'd be very interesting to see if the home advantage is if it was the higher team was the better team in all these cases, or was home ice advantage the real big situation. So our college camps, invite only. No. Once again, if you dig hard enough, you'll find that anybody, by NCAA rules, anybody's eligible. They'll try to tell you no, but anybody can go to an NCAA camp. They are not allowed to have closed camps or to close the door on anybody. So that's the way it is. With NCAA name, image, likeness opening up the commercial opportunities for college athletes, do you think it's possible that the NCAA would allow OHL and CHL players to come play? I'm married to a lawyer, and my daughter's a lawyer, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm not the person to ask that question to. If I got my opinion on this, I think it's just a matter of time before junior hockey is junior hockey, no matter where you're playing. Part of the reason, too, that I believe this is the case is because the OHL has just been spanked by the USHL in the last 5-8 years now, mostly because of the National Training and Development Program. But the numbers of players that are opting not to go to the OHL, it's significant, and it's really made a difference in the level and quality of play. Now, old school people will tell you, old school NHLers will always, hang their hat on the OHL as being the crown jewel. And this year, the NHL looks like it's going to swing back towards the OHL a little bit. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Central Scouting is based out of Toronto, and with the border issues, I don't think Central Scouting was able to get out and watch players play. I don't think they got down to the States and watched. So, they were able to, I think Canadian players got the advantage of just the default, and that's just my thought on that. So, great question, Jay, but I'm really not one that I got my opinion. My opinion is yes, it's going to be an equal playing field soon. So, so how could somebody get involved with scouting, even if it's voluntary? Hey, look, you start with tier 3 junior teams. You go out to the junior teams and you mass blanket email and call coaches, and there will be a tier 3 team that will want a volunteer scout. You can go through professional programs. There's professional programs that teach you how to scout, and you will pay to do work for them. They call it an internship, but you will pay for that internship, and then you'll work your butt off for a whole season, and you'll do scouting reports all over God's green earth, and then you get a certificate saying you passed the course. I teach a course online. I've got a webinar that teaches you how to go get into the business and do things. You don't need to do that. What you really need, hey, if you want to do it, I got a class. Don't get me wrong, it's a paid class. You can do it, but I'm not here advocating that. My first step, if I were trying to get involved, is to start reaching out to teams. You'd be amazed at how many teams say, "Hey, look, can you watch this 2 or 3 midget teams, or we're interested in this, or can you help fill camps?" Because honestly, if you're scouting, one of your first priorities with tier 3 junior teams, if you're a scout, is to drive butts into the camps. Your main camp, your spring camps, your showcases, driving bodies into those camps and getting the numbers up so the team can survive is part of the game. That's just the way it's done. So, get on the phone, call some people. It's always the way it's done. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Son drafted the OHL team, wants him in camp September. Also drafted the USHL, going to their camp next week. Signed up for a U6 team already for next season. He turned 16 in August. OHL team wants him to play in September. Well, first of all, congratulations. That's awesome news, and that's That's you hit the double instead of hitting a single. It's great. So, the news is the door is open. My argument is very biased on this. My argument's very one-sided. And my argument on this would be, why would you worry about an opportunity that shuts the door to any opportunities in the United States? Unless you're of Canadian heritage, because you look at things differently if you're Canadian. It means a lot more for most Canadians to play in the OHL than it does to play in the USHL. I get that. Okay, but once again, I'm biased on this, and I see no practical reason to play in the OHL unless that's your only option. If you're good in academics or you're competent in academics, where you're not embarrassingly behind your peer group in academics, hey, it's nice that the OHL wants you to play. Just remember, go to College Hockey Inc. Make sure you read all the rules on what you can do. I believe it's 48 hours still that you can stay in camp. You have to return any of the materials that they give you. You can't even keep a hat or a sweatshirt or a jersey. If you're in camp, you can buy that. If they give you a practice jersey, you can pay for it. Make sure you got a receipt, and then come back after that. You can't play against any other teams. You can only play inter-squad scrimmages or practice. So, but it's a good situation to have. I gave you my biased opinion on that, but that's awesome. The fact that you've got opportunities at that age, good for you. And I think I know who that is, but I'll not call anybody out that I can't see their name on. Since D3 cannot offer athletic scholarships, sorry. D3 cannot. I don't know what that meant. Thought we had one going there, but don't know what that means. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that one. D3s cannot offer scholarships. That is true. However, a lot of D3 programs, especially private school D3s, can match other schools' programs' price for tuition. They can give you in-state price when they've got an out-of-state number. They can do a lot of things to bring the number down. So, for example, let's say you're going to a private school that's normally $50,000, and you're also recruited by a SUNY school that's $17,000. A lot of the private schools will work it out so that you pay the same price you'd pay through grants and through different programs on campus. They can't give you a full scholarship. They cannot give you anything that they cannot give other students in the student body. And the reason that is because there were some schools in the New York area, this is going back into the mid-'90s and late 90s, that took advantage of the German club or the whatever else, the French club or whatever that had these, or the math society on the campus, or the math division of the campus. And what they did was they would get math scholarships or German scholarships for, hey, you're interested in German and you want to study German while you're in school? Well, we've got $10,000 we can give you for that. So you saw these hockey players, literally hockey more than any other sport, with these astronomical, grant and aid packages that nearly paid their full tuition, and they took one German class a semester, or they audited a German class or did something silly, and so they got caught on that. So it's got to be equal playing field. You don't have to be an athlete to be offered the same things that the athletes get. They just find creative ways to get everything they can when they put those together. So hopefully that helps a little bit. How can you find ACHA clubs that give scholarships? So ACHA has a totally different set of rules. ACHA clubs are usually pay to play on the hockey side, but we've done a whole show on ACHAs. If you go back on our YouTube or go back on our Facebook page, we did a whole hour on ACHA hockey, and it walks you through the whole process of where to find the teams, how to get involved with the teams. Once again, they too can also give you some astronomically good deals. They don't call them scholarships, or maybe they do. I'll take that back. But a lot of times they can just knock off a lot of tuition right off the bat, depending on the school and what the school is trying to accomplish, because some schools want a really strong team, like as Lindenwood, Arizona State, Penn State, as these teams that decided to go to D1 as they ramped up, LIU, Long Island. All these teams, when they were ramping up, they gave unbelievable packages at the club level, at the ACHA level, to help build and get those kids in the program over the years. So hard to really answer that question. with more detail on a short show like this. But go back to our videos. The marathon day, the day we did all the marathon videos, I did 6 1-hour broadcasts back to back to back to back to back. That night, we did 1 whole hour on ACHA hockey. That will help you. Go watch that video if you can grab it on YouTube. The Robert Morris University situation have any correlation with the Coach Thomas situation that you're aware of, or totally unrelated set of circumstances? Dylan, that's a great question. Let's leave that one. We'll give it a little more time so we can all get a little more information on that. I don't want to open up that can of worms in discussion tonight. Maybe next week would be a good week where we can fit that in, but that's unpacking that one, would take us a good 15 or 20 minutes. So let's let that one lie if you don't mind. I'm not trying to avoid it. I just want to make sure that that we give it some justice and we're fair and balanced on that, even though we're not truly a newsworthy program. We're very biased, but I don't want to be unbiased when it comes to talking about coaches or something as serious as that. So, and Dave Kennedy comes in and says, my son is getting 18K to play ACHA, so the opportunity's there. Spot on. That's great. So, all right, let's talk about our winners of the contest. We've got 4 winners, and let's see where we're at here. My winners, and then I want to get back and talk about a little bit more about the USHL draft if we got some time here. Contest winners. So this was, I told you Dave Kennedy's name would come up. Dave, you got the random drawing. You're going to get, make sure I get my DM me your email. Dave Kennedy, you won one of the random drawings. You invited at least one person to join our group. And because you did, your name was pulled out randomly. And wouldn't it happen to be one of the people that actually was one of the first people that actually got involved with our discussion group? Dave's been a good friend of the program and has turned into be a good friend of mine over the last year and a half here. And I glad to see him actually get randomly drawn too. That's awful nice. It kind of made me go, oh, I got to explain that one. But what I did, I threw a bonus one in here. So our other winner of the random drawing is Vince Capello. Vince also won the random drawing. That means that he got at least one person to sign up. And when he got him signed up, we put all the people, every single person that had at least one person sign up, we threw them in a hat, pulled out a name, and so Vince won too. So Vince, I think if you haven't already DM'd me, please DM me your email address on that. So our winner of, at the time, the most one of the prizes was for the most overall. And the most overall was Melanie Burns Simmons. And I don't have the number written down, but it really doesn't matter because I kind of bent the rules on adding another prize tonight. And the reason is because we had a person. Now, I don't know if I completely agree with the strategy because some of these people might not be directly related to hockey, but we had a person invite over 1,000 people to join our group over the course of the last week and a half here, and that's Kayla Johnston DiMarasi, I believe that's pronounced right. And if Kayla, if I didn't say that right, my mom's maiden name is DiMartino, so give me a little bit of break. I'm trying to say it the way I think it should be said. But with over 1,000, we threw a special winner in for her, and so we're going to give her one of the Howie's Hockey Tape gift packages too. So great job to everybody. I wish I had more to give away. But we've got 4 winners. All of them will get an electronic gift card for a gift basket to Howie's Hockey Tape. And so you can get those. Howie's Hockey Tape will send you whatever you want. You get a nice box of stuff. It can be tape. It can be wraps. It can be laces. All the stuff Howie's Hockey Tape has. So enjoy that, and congratulations, and thank you so much for growing the organization or the group that we have going, because it's a big family and it's working really good, and I really appreciate it. So any other questions? Last chance here. We're going to wrap it up. We covered a lot tonight. I don't have time to get into more detail on the draft, but I'll put a video out that matches the 2019 video about where the top 3 draft picks, where they came from. We'll break down and do a little bit of demographic study on that. We'll do a little bit of league comparison about where kids are coming from. But realize, it doesn't matter if you're coming from coming in the futures draft. It doesn't matter if you're coming into the regular draft. If you want to play in the USHL, you're coming out of high quality prep, high quality Minnesota high school hockey, or you're coming out of high quality U16 programs, U15, U16 programs that is going to include Tier 1 Elite, HPHL, Beast, that level. If you're not there, don't expect the call. Don't expect a knock on the door. It would be rare, and it is rare when that happens. Now, you'll see, 8th round, 12th round, lower round kids where they'll take a flyer on. But a lot of times, a USHL general manager and coach are looking for that top 8 to 10, and then they're using some of the other picks for other reasons, and some of those reasons could be they're taking a real chance on a kid. They see a really big, tall kid that they think might develop over the next few years, so they want to kind of earmark him. Sometimes it's lower level programs, it's scouts or coaches or people that are helping their program, and they recommend somebody where they haven't really put much time into them, but they want to take and put that kid on because they got a recommendation from one of their scouts, and they really haven't put the time into the player to watch and see if he's good enough, but he shows up on the list. But they're legitimate players. Let's see if we got anything left as far as questions. I don't see it. I see Stephen came on. Stephen, I'll get your question next week. We'll talk about that whole Robert Morris thing across the board. So, folks, thank you so much. Hey, look, we've got a ton of new people on here. I'm going to be posting all of our new videos coming up as much as I can. I'll probably be in Blaine, most likely be in Blaine. For those that don't know, my son does play for Shreveport. My youngest son plays for Shreveport, and they're up 2-0 in the second round. So, we're encouraging the team to win one game over this next weekend. A tough Wichita team. And then we hope to be in Blaine. So if we're in Blaine for that period of time, we'll probably ex-nay the show for that weekend. But besides that, I really hope that we get our consistency back and we can keep running this. And, hey, you know what? It'll be fun to talk about Blaine, too, and to give you a little bit more. This will be the first time that I'll be experiencing the Null side as a non-coach, non-GM, non-owner, but experiencing the Null event as a parent. So I'm excited just to be enjoying this and kind of enjoying the ride, because in 35 years, usually I go to these events. I'm not on that side. So, hey, have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much. We had an outstanding group on tonight, and thank you for all your questions and comments. And we'll have a great time next week when we do this again. Everybody have a great night.